this meeting to order, and we will start with the pledge to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Scott.
Here.
Nedrow.
Here.
Sinkowitz.
Here.
McGee.
Here.
Dumont.
Here.
Duff.
Here.
Mallett.
Here.
All right. Correspondence, we have a Tiki Candle financial report. Do I hear a motion to receive and file? So moved.
Second.
I think motion Duff, second Nedrow. Further discussion. Nice report. Lets us know where we are. Sounds like we may have some leftover candles we need to work with and some stuff for that committee to work through, but it's another smashing success overall. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Additions to business. We do have a couple of additions to business. I would like to add Veterans Memorial Update as item M, and DPW purchases as item N1, fence, and N2, riding mower. And I believe that's all we have.
I, like the administrator, I got an email today about E. coli, and I think that should be added on so people are made aware.
Let's put that as item B2 under Water Management Board.
I missed that. What was it?
E. coli report on, what's the name of that beach again?
Spring Lake Heights.
Spring Lake Heights. So do I hear a motion to approve the agenda with the additions of items B2, E. coli report, Spring Lake Heights Beach, item M, Veterans Memorial Committee update, and items N, DPW purchases, 1 fence, and N2, riding mower.
So moved.
Motion Malik, second Duff. Further discussions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Brings us to item 6, first call to the public, an opportunity for citizens to address the council on agenda items. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Name and address, and come on up to the mic so folks can hear you.
Sure. Thomas Sharavelli. I'm at 1845 Ladd Road. Okay.
Yep.
Good. First, I'd like to share an email that I sent to the board. McGee, Sinkowitz, is it? Duff, Dumont, Malik, Nedrow, and Scott. And I've also CC'd my wife Tamara and my attorney. So I'll just going to review this with you guys just in case somebody forgets that you didn't receive this. So it says here that I'm writing as a concerned citizen, tax-paying resident of Wolverine Lake, Village of Wolverine Lake. We've been in dispute for months with our neighbor, Dixie Gannon. Some of you may know Dixie. I think she was on your water board at one point. I don't know if she still is or not. She continues to call the village and the police department with fictitious complaints about us infringing on her property. She has applied for an application to put up a fence, and the fence was approved. Although, after looking at it, it seems like the fence got approved after quite a long time that it was sitting. She applied for the permit May of 17, and I don't think it got approved until this year, May of 2018. It says, though, that she was going to put a fence up along the side of her yard, and it was going to be a 30-inch picket fence, and it was going to be a 48-inch picket fence between the houses. And the fence does not match the description, just so you guys know. Hopefully somebody's taking a note of that. However, the fence was placed on our property, clearly on our property. And the reason why we know this is that because of all the back and forth with the village and the police department, I agreed to go in and get a survey done on the property. And we had the survey done, and she didn't like how the survey was done, so she pulled out the stakes, and we had to get the guy to come back to do an additional survey, and it turns out that the fence is on our property, which we knew it was the whole time. So we've contacted this Tim Brand, who is, I don't know if you guys know, I'm not trying to throw Tim under the bus, but he's a real hard guy to get a hold of. He doesn't seem too concerned that the fence is put on our property. So we're not getting any satisfaction from that. I guess he only takes calls on Tuesdays. I've left a message with, I think Nathan. Are you Nathan? Yeah, did you get my voice message?
About the walkway, not about the fence.
Oh, not about, okay, about the walkway. Well, that's another subject. We'll get to that in a minute. I've been running a business for a long time, and if somebody emails me with a concern, the courtesy is at least to respond. Is that how you guys do things here? Curious about that.
In general, we respond. I'm trying to remember your particular email, and it may have come in when I was looking at something else, but I don't recall it in particular.
Okay. Does anybody recall it?
No,
Yeah, I
I do
see.
that
Yeah, I
also.
remember.
Legal issues that we're proceeding on with this.
Okay, that
That
may,
were also part of that.
that may be, it may have been wrapped into the
Yes.
larger thing there. Okay.
Is there something that I should know about, something wrapped in a larger thing, or? I mean, Dixie was prosecuted for destroying our deck.
That's what I'm referring to.
So, yeah,
There's some
so
legal
she was
issues
convicted of
involved.
that. She goes for sentencing in the next week or so, or whatever it was. So she admitted to destroying our fence. We then took her to small claims court because she dug up all of our bushes and, destroyed that. Just, I don't understand who does things like that. But, so we won our judgment in small claims court last week. Of course, she's gonna appeal it and, so it's on and on, I guess. The bottom line is that your documents here, this fence review application was not even followed at all. So I don't know who's Tim's boss, who looks over the guidelines of this stuff. I had a deck, I put a deck up on my house, I don't know, about 10 years ago when we moved in. And I don't know if it was Tim, I don't remember, but somebody was all over me about the specs and is it 2 inches too far? And, the guy was all over us with that, which I think is fine. Clearly, nothing was done about this fence. Nobody, he didn't come look at it. He didn't see that the fence doesn't match. And, I don't know where you guys grew up, but, I grew up in Walled Lake in Livonia, and there is no possible way that if I'm gonna apply for a fence and put up this fence, that somebody's gonna approve it. It's crooked, it goes across the property line, it comes back, it's piecemealed together, it's painted, half of it's painted, the other half isn't painted, it's raw wood, it's ridiculous. Like, there's no beautification purposes, or aesthetic, it says on here, all fences must be located entirely on the private property of the person. That's what it says right on, you guys put this together, or somebody did. So I don't know what's going on with this. So I'd like to get some kind of answers.
Nathan, do you
Did I
have
cover
anything?
everything?
Yeah, when Jim did come back out, he didn't even know that she was putting a fence between our houses. He didn't even know there was a fence there. I questioned him on it. He's like, oh, well, I got out of the car and saw there was a stake there.
Could
And
she
I said,
get
"The
up
stake
and
that
address?"
Dixie put up, the stake that Dixie put
So
up.
let's get name and address.
Tammy Chiravelli, 1845 Glad Road. And he said, well, there was a stake out there, and it looks like the little picket fence that was along the road is on her property. And I said, that's a stake that Dixie put up for purposes when we went to court. She wanted to show that her fence was on her side. I said that was not the survey's line or anything. She did that herself, which is clearly on this side of the fence, which, again, is on our property. So, he didn't even know that there was a fence between the houses. I said, well, if you go down along the fences and see along the houses, it's not a picket fence. And it clearly, I have pictures, the stake and the line goes under her fence. There's a post on the other side of her fence, which is in her yard, and he didn't know any of that. He knew nothing. I said, did you walk the property line? And he said, no.
Okay, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to refer this to our administrator for follow-up. Let me ask you now, just while we're still in call to the public, and we generally don't do much in the way of debate, but is there anything you want to or should say here?
No, I'll follow up with you directly about it.
Okay.
I think Tim spoke to you yesterday, or was it today or yesterday? Okay. There's some odd things there, an application in May of 17, not approved till May of 18. I can't speak to that timeline right now. But I'll talk to Tim about it and we'll respond.
And the guidelines are clear about how to put a fence up.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna put a fence up in my yard, I gotta follow the guidelines, like everybody should follow.
The guidelines are clear, if somebody wants to put up a fence.
It's pretty clear.
Mhm.
The
Yep.
guidelines weren't followed, yet the fence was approved. I mean, it just seems really odd to me. So, I'm not gonna make any judgment that way, but all I know is the fence is on our property, and somebody needs to do something. And I think that we've heard through rumors that she's moving, so we don't want somebody else to move in and be stuck with the issues that she's left currently. The other issue is that she has, excuse me, it's comical, she has construction pallets lining the border of our property from her walkway all the way down to the lake. And she calls them a boardwalk. You can't walk on construction pallets. And they're just laying in the yard. So weeds are growing up through them, it's ridiculous. Like, who does that? Yeah, what's the guidelines, I guess, for having construction pallets in your yard?
Sounds like that probably falls under our
Light.
light ordinance,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so,
I'm sure Nathan will follow up on that one. too.
okay, all right, good, thank you. Anything else? I mean, we have the documentation about how she applied and where the fence is, so you guys don't need all that. I'm sure you have access to all that.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. Anybody else first call to the public? Seeing none, I'll close the first call. We will move on to item 7, approval of the consent agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So, second.
Motion Duff, second Sinkowitz. Further discussion? Roll call vote.
Hold on, that was him. I was
Yes.
just drinking water at the
Sorry,
time.
motion Dumont. Stand corrected. That was the old ventriloquist trick, drinking the water, talking at the same time.
Pedro.
Yes.
Sinkwitz?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
Dumont?
Yes.
Duff?
Yes.
Mallett?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Motion carries. We have no public hearings tonight, so that brings us to item 12A, recommendations from Park and Rec. Recommendation to appoint Mark Geromini to Park and Rec for a term expiring December 31st, 2020.
Forgive me.
We're going to have to time our consumption a little bit.
Guilty. Mark came and saw us at the last Park and Rec meeting and wants to be part of our board, and he's more than welcome. He will be the second male on the board, so he's already been tasked with lifting. That's what the girls say anyways. But yeah, we welcome him. I saw him walk in. There he is.
Do I hear a motion to
I'd make
appoint?
that motion.
I'll second that.
Motion Alex, second Scott.
Thanks, guys.
Further discussion?
Generally, we get their application
Yeah, I
in here.
apologize.
so
Yeah, I didn't
I was
see it.
just curious, we didn't see either one of the applicants.
Wondering the same thing. Saw a little discussion in the
Yeah,
minutes.
I have a question for Mark. Did you apply by seeing the sign posted down on the corner, or what brought you around?
I volunteered at the Buddy Lunch. Later on, Kelly, the chair, emailed me and asked me to join the board.
Very good. I was just trying to see if anything developed from our sign,
Yeah.
because I know we do post stuff.
We did have an applicant who saw the sign, he just didn't live in the village, so
Okay,
we
very
weren't
good.
able to move forward.
Thank you.
All right, further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Mark, come on up here and get sworn in.
First person I have.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of this state,
and the Constitution of this state,
that I will faithfully perform
and that I will faithfully perform
the duties of the office of Park and Recreation Board
the duties of the office of Parks and Recreation Board
in and for the Village of Wolverine Lake,
in and for the Village of Wolverine Lake,
County of Oakland,
County of Oakland,
and State of Michigan,
and State of Michigan,
according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Thank you. Have you signed this? And I want to shake your hand, and you wanted to say something,
Yes.
is that correct?
Yes.
Sign right above your name there.
Mark, congratulations.
He's right.
Sorry.
And then real quick, I wanted to give just an update for
Yeah, absolutely. What's happening with Parks and
Well,
Rec?
first and foremost, tomorrow is the kickoff for the garage sale, so I'll go tomorrow, then Friday, then Saturday. You can go to the village office to get a map, or you can go online to get one as well, showing you where there's places that are, people that are selling goods. You never know what you can find there. Maybe there's a Picasso in somebody's attic that they're trying to dump, and hey, you could become a billionaire. Additionally, the big thing that I really want to talk about is the corn roast that's coming up on September 8th. There's a lot of great things that are going to be happening there, a lot of great things for kids, games, face painters, police and fire will be there for them. We're going to have some kind of an arcade as well for even older kids. Additionally, there's going to be vendors there for adults who want to shop for a few different things, and live music as well. And a big thing is, of course, the Veterans Memorial Kickoff that we're going to be doing as well. And that's including a big car show, plus an opportunity for kids to do some artwork for the Veterans Memorial. And that really is going to be a big part of it this year, and should bring out a much larger crowd than even normal times. Additionally, in terms of things that we're open for, we are still looking for vendors. If you are somebody who sells something under a tent kind of thing, give us a call. Additionally, we're looking for sponsors. If you want to promote your business at the event, again, give us a call and we'll work with you and see if we can't do that for you. And then finally, and most importantly, volunteers. This is an event that, yeah, it's done with Parks and Rec, done with upstairs, and done with the other employees in the village, but it's a big event, and we need as many people as possible who are interested in helping out. If you're a parent with a teen who's needs NHS hours, it's a great way to burn some hours for them. If you're a parent who wants to get away from your kids for a few hours, come on out and help us out. If it's an hour, if it's 3 hours, if it's all day, we're flexible. We're starting out early, and we're going to be going until the end of the day. And additionally, we would love to see members of the Village Council come out and help out as well. No worries, there's no dunk tank, there's no pie throwing contest. We would just love to have you help out, and as David said, I'm doing all the lifting, so you guys could just do other things that are less strenuous. But thank you, and hope to see everybody there.
All right,
Thank you.
Dave, you forgot to mention among his qualifications, the best patter in the business.
He is.
All right, item 12A2, recommendation to release funds for the festival and corn roast. Seems when we had the recommendation for releasing some other items, we didn't actually release corn roast funds yesterday, but this is funds as budgeted, so do I hear a motion to that effect? Motion Duff, second Sinkowitz. Further discussion? Roll call vote?
Sinkwitz.
Yes.
McGee.
Yes.
Dumont.
Yes.
Joe.
Yes.
Gallant.
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
Pedro.
Yes.
Thank you, council. Bring this to Water Management Board. Recommendation from Water Management to appoint Ryan Martini to the Water Management Board for a term expiring on December 31st, 2020. Mr. Scott, would you like to
Yeah.
introduce?
One of my neighbors, and unfortunately, I wasn't at the water board meeting, I was out of town, but I can only say by being a neighbor of Ryan and watching his use of this lake, he is a good addition to the water board. In addition to that, he has a very active young lady he lives with who is on our local Oak Island committee. So if I could, I'll make a motion to put Ryan's Martini's name on the desk, and let's get him aboard the water board.
So moved.
I believe I heard Duff, milliseconds before Dumont, so motion Scott, second Duff. Further discussion?
Yeah, I have the same question I had for the other gentleman. Is this something you were prodded by your neighbor, or did you?
I actually put the application in
Last May.
and the original, there was 2 openings then, but I couldn't make that next this time I did see the sign, and I called up and said, hey, I got my application in there, still good, so it worked out, but yes, I did see the sign.
Well, that's important, you know, it's something we initiated here not that long ago, and to see there is response, it's an important thing for the community.
And here we go. Sign is produced.
Thank you.
Mr. Martini. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Come on up, get sworn in.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of this state,
and the Constitution of this state,
and that I will faithfully perform
and that I will faithfully perform
the duties of the office of Water Management Board
the duties of the office of the Water Management Board
in and for the Village of Wolverine Lake,
in and for the Village of Wolverine Lake,
County of Oakland,
County of Oakland,
and State of Michigan,
and State of Michigan,
according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability.
so help me God.
So help me God.
This short.
Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you.
Thanks, Ryan.
Coming aboard.
Take care.
All right. Item B2, E. coli report, Spring Lake Heights Beach.
Wait a minute, what about C?
Item B2, E.
Oh,
coli
I
report,
thought
which
you
you
put it
asked
under,
us to
I
add.
thought you put it under D2.
No, right under water management.
No, all
Water
right,
management.
sorry about that.
So we did have, we do regular testing at a couple of the beaches in the lake. We did have an elevated E. coli
Right.
report. That came in, I think, yesterday,
No, just this afternoon.
just this afternoon. Okay. So they're going to come back and test.
Well, the
tomorrow.
reason I asked, there is no boat activity down at that end of the lake. We have an abundance of the swans that end up on the beach, which means they're in the water, they're doing their thing, and the geese, which some are left. But, we never see the harvester down there, nothing there making the water move, okay? The boating, there's no boating activity, everything seems to be always at the eastern side of the lake or up Penny Lake. And that end of the lake is also part of the community, and we do need some activity down there. I mean, whether the harvester comes in and just paddle boats its way through and makes the water move 1 or 2 days a week. But there's just the activity, which I think is the first time in this community's history we've ever had an E. coli problem on this lake.
I think we have had previous reports, but
Yeah,
it's been
we have.
a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a
It's
while.
been a long while then.
It's been a while. We've done much better on that front, both since getting sewers around the lake and also since we've been a little more active in control of swans and
Right.
geese.
Well,
So,
like I say, I
listen-
just go by the activity that doesn't go on down that end of the lake. You get a few fishermen in there, but there's no high-power boating that goes through or anything else to make the water move.
Was it high enough to close the,
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
the
closed.
beach is
Yeah.
closed for now.
Use
They're gonna
the
come back and
department,
test it again tomorrow.
I don't know if it's.
Yes.
I just want to make sure everyone's clear that we don't test for E. coli, the county does.
Right.
And so they check it once a week from June to August. The reports, or the readings have all been fine until today's. They're going to retest tomorrow. They'll let me know what the result is. If it's good, then the sign will be taken down, it'll be reopened again. And I just want to make sure that the public understands that this is a county
Oh, no,
program.
I'm not disputing that in the least.
Yeah, I know, I
I'm
just want to,
but
we've never
again,
had to deal with it in a few
Right.
years, so I just want to make sure people understand the process.
Did they indicate what type of E. coli it is? Is it animal or human?
No, and, I had a little bit of conversation with the director of the division over there at the Board of Health, and they don't really speculate on that, at least not immediately. They may give us a report after the fact.
Okay.
All she told me is that they will put a sign up today and that they'll resample and give us results tomorrow. And it's not really uncommon around the county. There have been over a dozen or so
Yeah.
beach closures. When I looked at the list that they had on their website, it looked like most reopened in a day or two. We're hopeful that's the case here, but we won't know until they do another sample.
Well, combination of heat and et cetera brings up that.
Do we know if any of the chemical treatment we do on the lake adds to or increases
Well,
this?
we usually do 4 to 6 treatments a summer, and this is the first one of these we've had in years, so I would speculate not, but I'm not an expert on that, but we've not had a high E. coli reading in a very long time.
Yeah,
Weed
I don't
treatments
think it's.
don't deal with coli.
Yeah, the two sources that we generally have and other lakes have are either, a real accumulation of birds and their associated droppings, or a human source. And sometimes high runoff can really contribute to a problem, and we've had a couple of pretty good wash days, so there may be a combination of things there.
I noticed a lot more ducks on
We can certainly have the water board talk to our lake consultant and see if there's something that bringing activity of some sort down there would affect an E. coli thing. From what I know, I don't think it's likely to actually make an impact one way or the other, but we can ask the question.
I actually went down there Saturday night. I did drive around that end of the lake, and generally I don't go that deep. Right. Because it's really shallow and there's a lot of weeds down there. Yep. But there was a lot of geese.
Oh, yeah.
Around your
that's-
swim
and like
area.
I say,
So-
and you made the point about a lot of weeds, okay?
Mhm.
I never see the harvester down there, but, again, I'm not out there sitting on the
It's only 2
the
feet deep
lakefront
out there though,
looking.
Bob. It's really shallow. I mean,
Can't get it in there.
can't even get it in
I
there.
think he can get in there. He's been down there in the past. So I guess the thing is, we have to exercise the fact that he must try. And then if he can't, he can report such that he can. So,
Is it milfoil? What's the weed down there? Do you?
I'd have to look at the map.
It's Dematica, I think.
I think it's carrot.
It's, like I said, it's only 2 feet deep.
If that's what it is, or, the starry stone
it's
that's in there,
more than 2
that's
feet deep
harvestable.
down there.
Yeah, that is.
Where I went.
But,
I
well,
went-
yeah,
I
but
went
I'm just
down in
saying,
front
the
of Little
weeds
Yellow
come up
House.
so heavy
Yeah,
that it
was
feels
close.
like it's 18 inches deep.
It is shallow though. It's very shallow.
Since we're kind of touching on this subject, I've had a question, and I've talked to other members of the, it seems like there's enough weeds to send the people out there to treat for chemical, but the harvester, again, is not, it's just, doesn't seem to be being used that much this year. We had one year where we used it 60 hours. Now, from what I understand is that, like, whoever's harvesting goes out there, and if he comes back with a pickup load or 2 pickup load, that's about it. Now, I don't know the new harvester operator, what he's doing, but it just seems like if there's weeds to get, let's use our $200,000 harvester and go out there and get him with that.
So here's what I'll say, Ed, without having looked at specific harvester reports for this summer yet. The water board put together the criteria last year of the harvester operator is supposed to go out and harvest any area where he hasn't been told, unless he's been told not to harvest an area specifically.
Correct.
So
Change
he
the
doesn't
whole
have a specific,
dynamic.
you must harvest here, you must harvest there. He has a specific, okay, here are some places where we don't want to harvest because of the treatment we're doing or because of fragmentation or something like that. But other than that, the whole lake is fair game. And it's really up to our harvester operator to go out there and find things. We have people call into the village and we ask them to go down and look at it. Maybe we need to do more of that. Maybe the operator that we've had hasn't been going out into some of the farther corners where he might. We're gonna have a new operator now because our old previous operator found a new gig, but I think everybody is on board with the notion of harvest wherever we can, as much as we can, because the more biomass we get out of the lake, the better overall. And if that's not happening, we need to work on finding more ways to make it happen next year, because certainly that's the criteria for the current plan we have in place.
Yeah, and he also is guided by our limnologist, Paul, and is given a map as to where he should be.
Yeah, where to start, where to focus.
To make sure. But in addition to that, he's not restricted. So if he finds something that isn't on the map,
I'm
he can
sure
go after.
when this season's over, we'll have a number of how much material that was taken out by the harvester, won't we?
I'm sure we will.
We'll have a number of hours spent
Number of
harvesting.
hours harvested, yeah.
Actually, the weeds aren't bad right now.
Well, that's the thing, and,
Really aren't.
I don't want to downplay the weeds, but I've had 2 people all summer say, hey, can you send the harvester my way? 2 years ago, we had 40.
Yeah.
And so, the public requests have been down, but we don't use that to decide when we go. We use the maps, we use the information we get from Paul, and we use the visual observations. So we've had very few requests for it. It does operate Tuesday and Thursday. We did miss, I think, 4 days a month ago because of a mechanical problem that had to be fixed. That's 2 years in a row. We've lost a couple days because of an issue with the harvester. It's been fine since then, so I think we're good to go. But we follow the procedure that's been discussed, and we'll certainly step it up. But with the reports I've been getting back from both harvester operators is that there's not a lot out there to harvest right now.
And again, the combination of theory is often repeated. Our limnologist is out there early. We're using chemicals, herbicides, to contain the growth early. Somewhat like using the same thing when you put fertilizer down, but you have a weed control additive to it. So what you're trying to do is to knock them down so they don't grow. And if that's successful, you're going to have less material to harvest. And I think we're pretty successful in that routine.
Yeah, but we just had a council member that made a statement that the weeds were so heavy. I mean, isn't that what you said?
And it's very shallow.
Okay.
I mean,
so,
heavy
well-
weeds in a 2-foot deep area.
Well, I don't know where you were to have 2 foot, because I've power boated in that area over the years, and the water's more than 2 foot.
I got a depth sounder on my pontoon.
They probably
valve on
couldn't
it.
depth through the weeds. But neither here nor there. It needs to have some activity.
Sounds like you need more swimmers down there or something.
Well, swimmers aren't gonna go out to where he boats.
Who walk
Right.
out there.
Yeah. It was down close to the cattails. Yeah,
Right?
it is shallow down there.
Yeah, I go down there, but at the pace that my boat goes, nobody really considers it activity.
True.
But you won't run out of gas.
No chance of that. All right, I think that's what we got for Water Management Board today. Item C, update on status of part-time code enforcement positions. Speaking of code enforcement and other things.
Thank you, President McGee. I passed out a memo to council. As I explained last week, we were in the process of doing interviews when the packets were due. We weren't complete with those yet, but now we are. So there's a memo explaining what we're looking to do. William Bazinski is here tonight. He's in the back. Hi, Bill. I'm going to do just a quick intro of Bill and explain the process that got us here. As you know, we're in between code enforcement officers right now. We had 125 applications or resumes come in, which is shocking. And a handful of them had some real good experience. And we interviewed a group of people last week and a few more this week. And Bill really stood out. He currently is a code enforcement officer for Milford Township 3 days a week, which means he's available for our 2-day-a-week gig. He's very familiar with the International Property Maintenance Code. He showed a real strong understanding of the job. And through the course of the conversation, we realized that Milford Township and the village do things very similarly in regard to code enforcement. One advantage is that we have the same attorneys, and so Bill's familiar with the citation process and the people and procedures involved in that. Prior to being a code enforcement officer, Bill rose to the rank of sergeant for the village of Milford. He had a 30-year law enforcement career. Just believe he's going to be a great fit for the position. We're really excited to have somebody with this much experience come in. Certainly want to thank everybody who applied, thank the other people who interviewed, but for us, it was pretty clear that Bill would be the recommendation to council to bring on for this position.
I'd like to make a motion that we hire him.
Second?
Motion Duff, second Malik. Further discussion?
Yeah, I do have some discussion. I understand William works for Milford for 3 days a week.
Yep.
Are those specific 3 days?
Yep.
Or are we laced into our Tuesdays and Thursdays?
We're going to
again?
be transitioning to a Monday and Friday schedule, which I prefer
Yeah.
because you get activity that's in response to the weekend and you get activity dealt with before the weekend. It's something that I think is a benefit, actually.
Well, the reason I asked, over the years, so many people know Tuesdays and Thursdays, you don't do anything.
Yeah, this will be shocking.
And I would like to see, like, maybe one day a month, a Wednesday or a Thursday, if it can be worked in somehow. So there is not just a set pattern of Mondays and Fridays. And I don't know if that's feasible or not, but just to make the community sit on edge a little.
sort of like my suggestion that we occasionally have the police boat leave the dock area at the ramp just to keep people on their toes. Just park it at somebody else's
Park it
dock.
at
if you know.
somebody's dock, yeah.
I think we can have the administrator look at that. I think right now.
Again,
he
I'm
may
just
be-
asking
He may
the
be
question.
working within specific days.
Sure.
I don't have much in the way of preferences, except I do think that Monday and Friday is a better fit for us than the
better.
Tuesday,
Yep.
Thursday was. I don't think I've got any questions, but I talked with Nathan a good deal about it after, he was ready to make the recommendation, and boy, it was just like a perfect fit for what I would have listed for, what are we really looking for in a candidate, so I'm glad we found you and glad you found us.
Thank you, sir.
Do we need a roll call vote, or?
I think we can just take this as vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So come on up, get sworn in.
You can raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of this state,
and the Constitution of this state,
and that I will faithfully perform
and that I will faithfully perform
the duties of the office of Code Enforcement Officer
the duties of the Office of Code Enforcement Officer
in and for the Village of Wolverine Lake,
in and for the Village of Wolverine Lake,
County of Oakland,
County of Oakland,
and State of Michigan,
and State of Michigan,
according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God. Thank you.
I have you sign right above your name here.
Maybe I better get my readers.
Find out what you're signing up for here.
Read the fine print that way, yeah.
Put it right on this table here, that'll be easy. You can sign right on that line now.
Hmm? Yeah, that's a good idea. Get it.
Go by William or Bill?
Bill's fine.
Pleasure to meet you, Bill. Congratulations.
Appreciate the opportunity here, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
You gonna mention that?
Welcome aboard.
Nathan, would it make sense possibly that we have our code enforcement officer out on a police boat once or twice during the summer to be able to see what the heck goes on from the lakeside?
Yeah, we could work with Bill on that. I will say that we've been more aggressive, I think, this summer in some areas with our police marine patrol activity, but yeah, certainly won't be able to know what
But
goes on
again, that's
all the way
something that
around.
they're not,
Yeah.
I mean, they're performing a different duty out there.
Yeah, I think that we could definitely arrange that.
Yeah, every now and then you see something out from the lake that you would never see from the street side.
Mhm.
And I think we should supply him with an official jacket,
We're going to look into that.
so when he's knocking on the door, people know who it is.
And I don't think we mentioned it when we were discussing, but he's also quite familiar with our attorney's office because they do enforcement actions for Milford. So, really good fit all around. All right, brings us to item D1, 2018 Road Maintenance Program.
Hello, Council. And we opened 3 bids. We actually sent out 8 full sets of bidding documents, and we only received 3 bids back. That is Cadillac Asphalt, ASI. ASI did the work for us last year. Cadillac did the work for us the year before that, did all the paving of Glengarry Road, and then Ajax paving as well. The summary letter that I presented to Nathan last week shows that Cadillac Asphalt, their bid was $646,600. ASI was $725,670, and Ajax Paving was $769,830. Obviously, Ajax Paving, if they were going to work us into their schedule, they were going to make a fairly decent profit on that, being $120,000 over the low bidder. That being said, if I could summarize the project, do you have the... I have the 5-year maintenance program map up here on the board for council. The plan is to pave Rose Lawn, Terry, Glen Court, Adelaide, Amenia, Ladd, and Oak Island. Those are the roads that are in worse shape here in the village, and they are the ones that I estimated the total amount of tonnage and the amount of work necessary to do those. That being said, these amounts, and I've gone over them with Nathan and with your treasurer, are substantially higher than the budget that we had adopted for these roadways this year. The budget this year, I believe, was, if I'm not mistaken here, about $340,000, $350,000, substantially above. If you recall, when we decided to go out for bids, we had a couple options, and I kind of warned council that the state of Michigan, and especially Oakland County, has been really throwing pavement down. We can speculate why they're doing it. On an election year, I can't imagine that that would have anything to do with it. But they have been overlaying a great many roads here in Oakland County and throughout the state. And therefore, the manufacturers of the asphalt, as well as the layers and the laborers of the asphalt operation, are really booked. The other 5 contractors just decided not even to bid because they couldn't even fit us into their schedule. We've worked really well with Cadillac and ASI, and so they did think that they could work us in. And the concern that I had was these quotes. So I went back and in analyzing these quotes, and I'm going to walk over here to kind of show you how the bids were put together. I kind of developed these 2 cross sections. This is a typical road in the village, 18 to 21 feet wide. It's got open ditches on both sides. It's got a kind of a gravel base underneath the asphalt. And then there's 3 to 4 inches of asphalt on top of the gravel base underneath the roadway. The way I put the bids together is I took the entire road program this year, and I, just to make sure the bids were very conservative, I assumed that we were going to remove the entire 4 inches of asphalt and replace that entire 4 inches of asphalt. And then most of the roads I was improving the shoulders as well. So it really ended up being about 25% more work than what I typically do. Normally what happens is if we have a really bad section of road, we remove all the asphalt, repair the base, and then put new asphalt over it, so you end up with 4 inches. Most of the roads, what normally happens is I fix the asphalt that is bad, but then I propose milling just the outside edges and leaving the center that's typically in good shape. If you've seen your roads, most of the time it's the edges of the roads that are in the worst shape. So in this case, the milling is only about 1/3 of what it is and removing it all. And we're only removing 2 inches of asphalt on the side and then bringing 2 inches over the whole roadway, so the whole road looks brand new and is structurally sound. Leaves very little shoulder work to be done, and we've used less asphalt. So in reanalyzing the bids, based upon that, I came up with a way that is a little bit more realistic. It reduces the asphalt pavement by about $133,000. It eliminates the shoulder work, reduces the shoulder work to about $20,000 instead of $42,000. And you can see the bids that I handed this sheet out for you tonight so you can kind of follow what I'm talking about. This is Cadillac Asphalt's bid. And then the milling, in talking with Cadillac, they agreed that if I do a partial milling instead of a full milling, they would reduce the price by about $1.50 a square yard, which reduces that cost to about $15,000. Now that's assuming we do the whole road. If we're only doing a portion, 1/3 of the road, now the square footage is even reduced more than that, and so we don't get charged anything for the square footage that we don't mill, just the areas on the side of the road. So this is conservative, reducing it by $15,000. So in recalculating, I end up with a total price for the contract being still conservative of $478,000, or we've reduced it down by about it ends up being about $180,000, $190,000 under what the original bid was. We have some options, and this is where I turn to council for your wisdom. We can reduce the scope of the work. We can remove some of the roadways from this year's program. We can amend the budget, or we can leave this budget and then have me just try very, very hard during the operation, during the field operation, to reduce those costs as far as we possibly can. I'm looking for guidance from council in evaluating whether or not you might want to remove some roadways. I want to just point out that there may be some logic if you move that way. This area, Roselong, Terry, and Glen Court are kind of in this area. We did these roads last year, so this would bring this whole area up to current standards. This area down here again, these Adelaide and Amenia are within a subdivision. I would have a tendency, if you wanted to remove Ladd and not a subdivision street. Oak Island, I believe, is in a bad enough shape that I don't think I'd recommend eliminating Oak Island. But I'm here to answer any questions you might have in your deliberation as to where we go from here. I might mention just one thing, because I did mention at the meeting where we moved ahead forward here. One option was to delay this, knowing that the prices were going to be high. And in comparing these prices to last year's, they're about 25% higher than they were last year. In talking to the contractors themselves, I asked them what their crystal ball showed about delaying this bid, or delaying this contract until December, January, February, and rebidding it this winter. Every one of them said there's an advantage to that, in that their labor costs will be down because they will be able to anticipate a project sometime next year, and they can program that in as one of the first projects they do next year, and that enhances their ability to get started next year. So their labor costs would be down. But Cadillac produces their own asphalt, and Ajax produces their own asphalt, and they said they've already been told to expect 2 additional price increases to their raw materials before the end of the year. So they didn't know how much it was going to be increased, but their speculation was whatever the labor price would be dropping, their material costs would be up, and so at best they thought it would be a break even by putting it off. So again, I'd like to answer any questions you might have regarding the logic and the progression of this and awarding the contract tonight.
So I think, Mike, let me start and then I'll go to John. This sounds to me like more or less the situation we thought we might have when we talked about bidding it this summer, seeing if we wanted to do it as a fall project.
Right.
There have been years when that's been a good idea because there hasn't been a lot going on. But we all suspected this was going to be a really busy year for roads for a variety of reasons.
And we were right.
And that's proven to be the case. This feels to me like we should probably hold off, rebid again in the spring, take a look at what else we might want to do as part of that summer paving. We've had a few other projects that we know are on the next year's schedule, and a couple other things that we've talked about, including the parking lot at Clara Miller, potentially a small parking lot by where the Veterans Memorial will be.
Yes.
A couple other things. Putting them all together as a bid package, maybe a slightly larger bid package than it would have been for just this fiscal year alone, and bidding again in the spring. And, whenever you hold off, you're rolling the dice. But I think our expectation was the bids at this time of the year would come in really high.
Right.
We might do better at another time. Commodity prices are very hard to judge out in advance. If I could, I'd be earning a lot more than $5 a night tonight. But I think this is kind of situation is expected, and I think our exact contingency was just what I outlined, so I feel like that's probably a good way to go. But let me go to John next, and we'll.
Well, being an Oak Islander, I would, of course, disagree with that. But then again, we do have fiscal responsibilities here. One quick question. As we come in, and we've been working, I think now, for 4 years on the 5-year projection plan, and you mentioned a number of 300,000 plus was the budget that we have for this year, and we're coming in, I guess, somewhere in addition to 478,000 just for the roads, if I'm reading this correctly.
That is correct.
Right. So, from that standpoint, when you were originally looking at that forward forecast, the 300,000, was it Plan A or Mill Plan B when you were reducing?
Mill Plan B
So it
is
would have been
what I
the
was
same
actually,
concept, then.
actually, if you recall, as you said, we started that 5-year plan 4 years ago, and it was delayed by a number of years due to
Right.
the economy. At that time, the plan originally was to just overlay Rose Lawn and Terry, not even do any milling, because there was still a substantial amount of structural integrity there. Over the last couple, 3 years, it's alligatored pretty well, and we have some structural base failure on those. That's why we had to do some enhancing. But I never intended on taking that all out and just milling on top of it.
Okay. Mike, do you know offhand what next year's budget is for roads?
I do. Well, obviously,
I mean,
you have
because
it.
if we're going to delay a year, are we just pushing not only what you've indicated, somewhat of a break-even projected cost of either doing it now or next year, and we're going to add more to it? Where do we sit for next year? I mean, I'm just
Well,
curious.
if you recall, you don't have an official budget.
Right.
But in the 5-year plan, next year's road budget was at 400,000.
Okay.
And I did kind of discuss that with the contractors a little bit, and they said there'd be a little bit of a savings because it's a much bigger project, but they felt the village program is large enough that the savings by doubling the size of it wouldn't be enough to really make that the decision factor.
So do you have any estimate of what that second run would be in delay? In other words, if we pushed everything that's sitting here over budget by some 166,000 just on roads, what are we looking at next year?
Well, if it's this budget that we did for the 5-year program, this year it's 25% under what we estimated.
Correct.
If we bid it right now, I would expect next year to be 25% under as well. If we bid it next year, it depends on how those prices escalate.
Well, I guess I'm saying is, assuming we went ahead and did this year's, what do you think next year's forecasted cost would be? Another 25% above?
About
what we-
25% above, because we would hopefully be taking advantage of, we've already started the drawings, we'd be taking advantage of bidding it in the wintertime and taking advantage of the lower labor costs.
So we're actually just delaying something for an anticipated potential savings, and yet I'm hearing you who are in the game not saying those potential savings might be realized at all.
The industry represented to me that they don't anticipate that there'd be any savings, a break even, if anything.
Okay.
Mike?
Go ahead, Ed. I'll-
I guess my first question, knowing the field I'm in, these methods you have of doing the edges and milling just in certain spots, do you feel that the integrity of the road will be at a standard that will get 5, 6, 7 years out of a road, or do you think this is like not the best way, but it's good enough?
That's a very good question, Ed, and I'm going to answer it this way. I would never present a plan to this council that would only last 5 to 6 to 7 years. I believe that we'll probably see the degradation of the county roads, which are being done much less than what I'm proposing here.
Yes.
Probably deteriorating much quicker than that. That being said, The very best scenario would be remove all the old asphalt and put all new back in. We've done that periodically in the village, and when we mill down, we can see whether or not the road itself has degraded, and then we typically go further and take more out in those bad spots, repair, and then build up from there. So bottom line is, the second way is a cost savings measure. It's a more or less an engineering cost efficient way to do it. The very best way is put all brand new roads in.
Absolutely. But you're comfortable with this?
I am, only because I put a great deal less engineering and speculating and do much more in the field. I like to be there in the field, if there's any questions, and make a determination right there, instead of just building the cost right into the project.
And another remark, and I guess this is for council, whether we want to delay or not. We could take these three proposals and maybe just do the Benstein pathway. I know the chief was really kind of pushing it because so many kids walk down that street to get to the corner. And I don't know if that's something that we might want to consider, that, you know, I don't know if we would have this done before the festival, or it would be done in the spring, but from what I've seen periodically, that's something that we really need to consider.
I think that is, you know, up there in urgency. And I think Mr. Scott's point about Oak Island is valid too, because that road really is in pretty bad shape.
That was gonna be my question, you know, instead of postponing, we know Oak Island is a problem. In more ways, no. But
We
with the
try to
roadway,
keep it
because of
active.
the pit that was there, that had to be patched and all.
Right.
But if we drop the others and do strictly Oak Island, okay, because it does need it, that would be one section out of the way. How is that gonna affect the people that are bidding? I mean, are they gonna be interested in coming in and doing just something like that?
Very good question, and I would be asking the same thing. Can't speak for them, but we package big projects because there's a fixed cost in bringing all the equipment in for just a small little project. And
But that's a major project, I mean, with the way that.
Oak Island
Oak
is,
Island's pretty small.
Oak Island, quite frankly, is only being done at these costs because I've combined it with major profit center and the bigger roads. They would, there's there's three projects that Cadillac would like not to even have to do. Oak Island, the pathway, because they're gonna sub the pathway out. They're road paving contractors. And they are not pavers that do parking lots. And so I would guess very much that Cadillac would probably back out and say, no, you've removed too much. Now, in the plan, in the specifications, we specifically said that council has the right to withdraw some projects or add projects to it, but it comes to a point where there's diminishing return for them, and they'll say, no, I'm gonna back right out, and we have to accommodate them on that. It might help council if I kind of present two additional things, and it's the second part of this, of the paper that I handed out to you there. Very interestingly, and this will let you know that Cadillac would really like to back out a couple of these things. Heron Hills Paving, I approached Cadillac and said, would you mind if we remove that from your contract? And they said, no, please do, you know, one of those things. Because ASI's bid for Heron Hills was only $106,000. So Cadillac said, no, please, feel free to remove it. ASI then, I had approached them and asked them, are they willing to just do that project? And they said yes, however, because they didn't have this bigger project, they wanted another $5,000 for mobilization, because they still had to bring all their same equipment in, and that cost money to come into the project. Keep in mind that the village really wanted to try to accommodate the residents in Heron Hills. If you recall, a number of years ago, they tried to have the village established a special assessment district in there to help them pave their parking areas. That was not able to be done, but Nathan and I felt that if we piggybacked their project onto a much bigger village project, we at least might be able to get their construction prices down, and then we would turn that contract over to Heron Hills, because quite frankly, I don't think I'd recommend the village handle a private contract between the contractor and Heron Hills. So we did this as a benefit to the residents in Heron Hills, and ASI has stepped up and said that they would hold their prices except for mobilization. So I'm looking for Heron Hills to deal with this one, not for council to approve the paving of Heron Hills. So I wanted to make sure that you knew that that wasn't part of the village contract.
Is it conceivable that we get somebody, break this up into 2 or 3 different sources? Have a path, somebody who likes to do pathways, do the pathway. And then get the smaller companies that can get around on Oak Island and pave that, do that, and then Huron Hills on their own. Because I can understand, you know, being confronted in this business that they want to do the big one where they can lay down tons, wham, bam, go straight down the road like Glengarry. But, you know, obviously, we know that there's a lot of intricacies, idiosyncrasies on the island, and the pathway, they need small equipment. Now, we had somebody do the pathway here. Why couldn't we get that guy to do the pathway? And that would be one project that we could probably afford this year. And Oak Island, and then we would help Huron Hills with their project, and these major streets we'd put off and go into next year. That would be my thought.
All of those are an option, and Ed is exactly correct. When we did Glengarry Road, we had the pathway going to be done at the same time. The unit price for Cadillac, same contractor, to do that pathway was extremely high. And so we went out to bids for another contractor to do the pathway, and that's how we did the pathway along Glengarry Road. Cadillac did the main paving, and the other contractor did the pathway.
Because the person who did that pathway is still available.
That is correct, and so we could certainly do that. It wasn't packaged that way, but we can certainly package it that way very easily tomorrow even, and see what we can get the smaller contractor for the paving, for the pathway. Oak Island, little different story. Again, that's a very nuisance type, very meticulous type little project. Have no problem packaging that either with the pathway or alone, and seeing, we have enough time, even if we delayed the entire rebidding till December, we still have another month or 2 that we can bid out these other ones individually and see what we can come up with yet this year for these other small ones. So that would be a way to do it.
Mr. President, would we need a motion for that, or as we're discussing this?
I think we would need a motion, so let's maybe discuss a little bit more, but I like the idea in
Okay,
general.
I think I have something that'll work as a motion.
So, so what we would potentially do then is kind of decline these bids as there are, send ASI to talk to Heron Hills, go back and rebid the pathway and Oak Island as either a joint or separate project. Come back with those. The other ones we would hold off on, do a bigger bid, and then I think at least up here at the table, people can see the yellow roads that are there are for the next year.
Correct.
So that becomes a really major paving project that probably knocks off about 25% of the roads in the village. Gives us a pretty good shot at saving some money there, takes care of the really immediate things. As somebody who drives on Lad Road every day, I'm sorry to see it wait out another pothole season, but I think it can be okay. I think that's pretty reasonable.
Well, the other thing we could do is, if we do have a big project next year, right, Mike, like we did a couple of years ago, we could split that project into like a June, July timeframe and do the portion that we had left from this fiscal year, do that in the June.
That's the way I would package it.
And then do the balance in July.
And that, quite frankly, is a really good, Mike, the treasurer, has a really good handle on how to balance those funds out, and I can work with him on how to package it so the contractor knows that they can either do it in the spring and they can do the other half in the fall, but there might be some advantage to packaging it in the June, July period.
Plus also, you know, we discussed in the past about the Waukito situation, and not to throw that in, but that might then become more of the large project if we do something there.
We can put the
To-
millings in Waukito.
To attract, you know, somebody that wants to do it.
Yeah, that's a council decision whether or not we
Yeah, and then
continue maintaining
If
Waukito.
we put the millings in Waukito, you leave them in there for a couple of years, and if
You
and
got a
when we
base.
ever decide to pave, we've got a base.
That's certainly something we can do, or I know it's been discussed of abandoning Waukito altogether.
So,
That's
That's a good idea, too.
let me say, we
Okay.
probably need to have a longer discussion over what the joint one should be. One other thing to keep in mind is we have sufficient fund balance. So say we put it out for bids over the winter, and somebody wants to do it in April and May because it kicks off their season, that's a good time to do it. We have sufficient fund balance to make a budget amendment and just do the thing without having to put out a bond or do any of that. And then we end up not paying any in the fiscal year. So we get those savings, and even, you know, it's fiscal year to fiscal year, so there's crossover there, but it's not actually in any way a cash flow problem or a financial problem or anything inexplicable to anybody looking at where we are financially.
Okay, I would like to make a motion that our engineer, Michael Powell, and our administrator, Nathan, work together to get the island paved by a contractor appropriate for that job, and also to do the Benstein pathway with our local pathway expert that we've used in the past, and then do the paving accordingly.
I heard a second from Duff, so motion with second from Duff. Discussion, I think probably what we really want to do with the pathway, I think our, local guy who knows the pathways is by far likely to be the best one, but I think we just put them both up for bids.
Yeah, let's start with that.
Yeah, so to put them both up for bids is the friendly amendment motion.
Right. Under further discussion, I just want to make sure that council understands a modification that I had to do to the pathway itself. And I'll just very briefly let you know, because I don't want it to be a surprise to anyone. It starts at the existing pathway here in Clara Miller Park, comes across the outside of the fence in Clara Miller Park, crosses the Clara Miller Park entrance, comes in front of the home, down across to Apple Orchard, down in front of the commercial shopping center here, down in front of the apartment building. And as we've kind of had discussion of this in the past, there's been a problem continuing from here to Glengarry Road due to our Tasty Freeze Dairy Twist owner here. I met with him at length to try to get an easement to extend this pathway to his drive, or down into here somewhere onto his drive to drop the people off into his property. He absolutely refused and did not want that pathway anywhere on his property, period.
Gate at the end of it.
He was, and I'll just speak for him, and you guys have, at any time, can go talk to him, but he was concerned about the liability of a pathway ending on his property. If somebody got hurt coming onto his property, then it became an issue to him. He did say that we could take it all the way down this property line and bring it in the back of his property, but quite frankly, I don't think that made a lot of sense, and so I did not do that. In working with Nathan, one option was to stop short of the property line, put a little end island there, potentially put a bike rack in this little alcove area here, and what would happen is people would still ride their bikes right across here onto here, but at least it's not, the owner feels it's not inviting a bike or a car to come onto his property. I just wanted council to know that that's the way this is packaged, so you weren't surprised when that is built that way.
How far short will it stop from the driveway?
I have, short of the driveway, I've got it stopped 2 feet short of the property line, so it's about 9, 10 feet short of the drive.
I mean, even if you put a curb there on the pathway, that's where the pathway ends, you step over the curb and you're on his property.
Certainly an option, but he wanted everything stopped short of his property.
Whatever.
I think a pathway end there, as described by Mike, is the best we can do if we can't get a right of way there, given that we can't build any closer to the road because of Oakland County road restrictions. And pedestrians will do what they have already been doing, which is find their way to the dairy twist.
Percentage of his increase in business.
They are coming anyways. We're just getting them off the road for the first half of that, and then what they do, I think, will develop.
There will be a 9-foot mud hole, right?
I'd rather have a pathway, but that's not what we're gonna
Yeah.
get.
That's cool.
I didn't get a close look at that. Is there gonna be a earth between the pathway and the road?
There's earth between the pathway and the road.
Okay.
And there's grass between the end of the pathway and his drive.
All right. No, but I mean, as it goes down Benstein, it's not like the one we have here where the
No.
road is part of the pathway.
There is meeting Oakland County standards, there's either 6 feet or 12 feet
Got it.
distance.
Good.
That is correct.
Thank
Much
you,
like
Mike.
here on Glengarry Road.
Thank you. Oh, we have a motion. though.
Yeah, so we still have motion to not proceed with the bids as presented, but to rebid Oak Island and the Benstein pathway. And then to discuss a larger project to be done in the spring. Further discussion on that? A lot of complicated financial decisions. Let's get a roll call vote.
McGee.
Yes.
Dumont.
Yes.
Duff.
Yes.
Malik.
Yes.
Scott.
Yes,
Medrow.
Yes.
Sinclair.
Yes.
All right, thank you, council.
thank you, Ed.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Council.
But that's not all. We have another one from our engineer. South Commerce
It's
Sewer
hard to write
Connection
it, Mike.
Payment.
Back when all of this, this particular project was being undertaken, I brought it to council for some guidance. And some of the numbers changed slightly, so Nathan and I both thought that this should come back to council for some guidance and maybe, hopefully, some concurrence with my recommendation. On August 2nd, I sent a letter to Nathan going through, describing what the process was and what happened, and identified that there's still some outstanding funds due the contractor because he's done the work and he hasn't been totally paid for the work yet. If you, I gave you a 8 or 11 by 17 size sheet of paper with a with kind of a drawing on it. 2529 South Commerce Road lies just north of the apartment complex, to the left-hand side of the paper there. The drawing that you see there is the Barnes home, and they have a grinder pump that's been installed out in front of their home, and that's that circle with the S in it. When we meet with people, we meet with them and we decide where we're going to be able to connect into their home sanitary sewer. We locate where the grinder pump's going to be. We locate where the existing sanitary sewer is. And if you look out in South Commerce Road, there's an existing 10-inch sanitary sewer. It's a dashed line that goes left to right across the page. Most of the people on South Commerce Road can tie into that 10-inch sanitary sewer. In this particular case, the homeowners came in, they paid their fees, and there's a higher tap fee for them because they did not assist in putting that 10-inch sanitary sewer main in. So there's a $4,500 tap fee instead of a $1,500 tap fee to tie into that sanitary sewer. So the contractor's out there, and just before he starts the construction, he locates that 10-inch sanitary sewer and finds that, and keep in mind that Commerce Township paid for and designed that sanitary sewer in there, and found that that sanitary sewer was over 10 feet deep, more like 12, 13 feet deep, too deep for his equipment, and be able to do that tap without actually having a hole open up into Commerce Road. And so he backed out of being able to do that work. The master plan to serve the area from Payne Court all the way to the north to the condominiums is for a 2-inch sanitary sewer to be connected down to, on the south side of Payne Court, and run all the way down South Commerce Road, just a 2-inch line that all the homeowners and property owners there north of Payne Court along South Commerce Road to tie into. Unfortunately, that sewer was not put in. It was never, I'm sorry, the 2-inch sewer was never applied for to be installed by the homeowners here, so that SAD hadn't been established yet. And we were trying to get him tied into the 10-inch sanitary. Bottom line is it couldn't be done. All of this time, they haven't been able to use their sanitary sewer because their septic field, which is lakeside, was so bad that it was actually flooding their yard, and we were in danger of that water running down into the lake. They pumped it weekly, but they took showers at a gym and did their laundry out, and so it was, they were very, very discouraged that it was taking so long to solve this problem. Bottom line, I brought it back to council and said, we can do it another way. We can extend a pipe from their yard all the way down and tie it in where the master plan says to there at Payne Court. And I honestly felt at that time, the extra money that they had paid contingencies, and they had paid that overage for them not paying for the sanitary sewer in front of their yard, was going to pay for that. I was wrong. The actual cost was more than that to make that tap and run that 220-foot line all the way from their yard down to Payne Court. And so, as my letter said, their cost pays for all of their construction and pays for a great deal of the 220 lineal feet, but it falls. I'm sorry if I can find this quickly.
$3,810 short?
Yes, thank you. $3,810 short. I approached the Barnes, and needless to say, they weren't really receptive to coming up with that. They just said that they were right at their limit, and they just could not do that. My suggestion to council and to administration is that this is part of a sanitary sewer that is designed and will be extended further to the north to pick up all the people there on South Commerce Road. So the next person's sewer septic system that fails, assuming it's within acceptable distance there, they'll have to extend it, or preferably, I'd love to have a meeting with all those residents and say, listen, this is your time to extend that sanitary sewer. You want to be part of an SAD to extend that sanitary sewer, then those costs would be rolled into the extension of this sanitary sewer covered by the rest of the people. Problem is, obviously, the Barnes people really don't have those funds, but I was thinking the village could loan the sanitary sewer fund that much money to pay the contractor off, and then they would be, that fund would be paid back when that sanitary sewer was extended in an SAD, or by the next, or quite frankly, by the next homeowner that needs it, because they'd be paying that additional $3,000 tap fee. So I'm kind of laying this out here for council to see whether or not it makes sense to allow the sanitary sewer fund to pay for this portion of the sanitary sewer and then anticipate it being paid back sometime.
Eventually be reimbursed.
Correct.
Can I?
Go ahead.
Are the apartments hooked up to the sewer?
They are not. So obviously, if they go to tie in, they have two options. They did not help to pay for any of the sanitary sewer, so they could tie into this one, or they could tie into Payne Court. Either way, they have to pay the higher tap fee because they didn't participate in the extension.
Do you think is it feasible to have another contractor come in and hook up to that one that's 12 feet below the ground?
It is definitely feasible to do that, but it
I mean,
would
is
cost
that-
it substantially more, way more than this $3,000
Okay.
to do that. Way more, correct.
So I think, let me summarize this as it's all in there. I think we have a situation here in which we have a resident who needed to hook up to the sewer. We expected to have adequate infrastructure in that place. We did not have adequate infrastructure in that place. So we need to extend our basic sewer infrastructure a bit for their hookup. This water and sewer fund advancing a little bit of money on some basic infrastructure, as we've done in other places in other times, knowing that eventually there will be an extension at some point in the future, be it 2 years in the future or 20 years in the future, that will take advantage of that infrastructure and will pay back that. So this seems to me like exactly why we have a water and sewer fund.
Right,
and-
that's it.
Yeah, and I think this is a pretty reasonable accommodation for their need, and it's, you know.
I'd like to make a motion that we extend loan to the water and sewer fund, is it 3810?
Yeah, so let me hear your motion slightly differently, that the water and sewer fund pay the shortage of $3,810 on the project for the basic infrastructure needed. So that's the motion I heard from Duff. Do I hear a second? Second, Dumont.
Do we want to put in there that to be reimbursed by
Future.
the residents?
Yeah, I don't think we need to. I think it's inherently part of it.
Built into it.
To be reimbursed when it's, when that
I mean, you
infrastructure is
have
built out.
lateral benefit language in your ordinances.
Correct.
And
So-
that will be paid in the future when they're.
This will relieve the Barnes family, I take it.
Yeah.
Mike, just out of curiosity, is that 2-inch line the same 2-inch line that we put through all the village?
Same exact
But
design.
It wasn't done there because we thought we had one?
No, it wasn't done there because the people on South Commerce Road never signed a petition requesting it. Remember, council doesn't extend sewers unless the people desire it. And so, what happened is, we could have just extended an 1.25 line
Okay.
down there, but then that couldn't have been used in the future. So we upsized it to be able to be used for the extension instead of just a small, single-family home size.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Right. So we built it out as infrastructure as needed.
Right.
All right, cool.
Right.
Let's help them out.
Yeah, and that's capped, and what you said is that you'd like to approach those further, if you would, north down Commerce to see if they would like to extend that line.
That's correct.
Okay. To get it in place.
Right.
That's
And
why we have the
let
fund.
me, very quickly, and I apologize, I've dragged things out, and thank you so much for your patience, and it's fairly complicated, both of these.
That's why
have
we
been
have
very
meetings.
complicated. If we had known this up front, the Barnes would have had two choices right up front. Either they pay for the sewer extension on all these costs, or they build an engineered septic system lakeside, and putting the septic system lakeside doesn't accomplish anything for the lake nor for the barns. Their costs would have been substantially more, and the village would have lived with a septic field lakeside again. So we kind of, if I erred on the side of the environment, and so, yes.
Thank you, Mike, good job.
All right, further discussion? Roll call vote?
Dumont.
Yes.
Duff.
Yes.
Malik.
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
Medrose.
Yes.
Singleton.
Yes.
McGee.
Yes.
Thank you, council, very much for your patience.
Thank you, Michael.
Okay, let me shuffle a bit here. Introduction of ordinance 144A1, super drunk driving. That's the ordinance. Let me ask the attorney to give us a quick overview. I think it's pretty straightforward.
Your administrator has spelled out everything really well in this memo. This was a change in the state law for enhanced penalties and fines related to blood alcohol over .17. This change came about in 2010. It was still prosecuted at the county, state level. It was changed in 2012 to allow for local prosecution, and communities slowly started changing the ordinance Scott, your prosecutor, approached me last month or, I don't know, recently and said, we don't have the super drunk law in the village. We haven't changed to update to allow for local prosecution. We need to make that change. And I said, well, how do we get 6 years into this without that happening? He said, that's how many super drunk prosecutions we have. We don't get a lot of super drunk prosecutions, which is good. So anyways, I just sent this to the village administrator and said, let's update this so we can prosecute locally.
All right, do I hear a motion to introduce the ordinance?
Second.
Motion Malik, second Sinkowitz, further discussion?
Thank you,
Bike
Rob.
path.
Hearing none, let me get a roll call vote.
Yes.
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 All right, thank you. All right, so we really haven't had a super drunk prosecution yet, is that?
Yeah.
I don't know if from 2012 to 2018
But if so,
we
maybe
had
like one.
Right, he said that he rarely has the super drunk
Well, the
prosecution.
first one we can invite to council.
Hope it stays that way.
Let's hope to have an ordinance that sits there unused.
Amen.
Yes.
Make a
Um, All right, Lakes Area Youth Assistance Contract for Services. Let me ask the administrator to introduce this.
This is an annual item that council has approved. The amount, $4,200, has not changed. This would be for this upcoming year, the current year that we have. I think a lot of you are familiar with Lakes Area Youth Assistance. The memo that came from them does a good job of outlining all the different programs that they participate in. I won't go through those unless you want me to, but this is something that we've done annually and would like to approve this again and get them these funds.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Motion Duff, second Scott. Further discussion? We've discussed it a lot of times, but I think it's some of the best money that we spend in our budget. That group has had a really positive impact on our
The
community.
4,200, hasn't that stayed the same for years now?
It's been the same my 3 years here. I'm not sure about previous to that, but it has not, they've not requested a change this year.
Okay, just, thank you.
Further discussion? Roll call vote.
Yes.
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 Motion carries. Mr. Byrd, you're on again. TIA, Transportation Improvement Association.
Yeah, council may remember that last year we joined TIA as a member at a rate of $1,300 a year. This has been really beneficial for us in the village. Last year, you may recall that we had concerns from Penny Lake Estates regarding speeding, and they did a really detailed study for us that would have cost way more than this $1,300, and we've also got additional services out of them for this amount. And so they're working on a project right now. It's taken them a little bit longer than I thought, but I think they're finding what we all know, that the South Commerce Pathway topic is a lot more complicated than it appears on the surface. But they are working on a report for us on that topic. I expect to have something very soon on it to share with you. But this is a really good bang for our buck here to resubscribe with them and to have them available to answer certain questions and to help us with certain topics. We think that it's been a good thing. And they came with Mr. Powell's blessing last year. I assume that hasn't changed. So we would like to go ahead and approve this and have them available to work for us up until next June.
Based on our administrator's recommendation, I would make a motion that we renew the Transportation Improvement Association fee of $1,300.
Second. I'll second that.
So, motion Sinkowitz, I think I heard the second from Jamont, yes. Further discussion?
Yeah, just one quick question. Nathan, are they also working with Commerce? I mean, is there a joint
On the pathway?
communication on the pathway, or?
They are looking at, they're getting counts of pedestrian activity along that route.
Okay.
They're going to highlight for us what areas we can do ourselves, what areas Commerce would have to do, where we would have to cut back and forth to make the pathway possible. They're looking at it from a safety perspective. You know, they may come back and say this just doesn't make any sense at all. I don't expect that, but it's kind of open-ended to say, here's what we have in mind, do as big of a report as you can for what would need to happen for us to make it possible. I don't know if they've reached out to officials at Commerce at this point, but I think that they're going to highlight for us what we would need to do to interact with all the different jurisdictions that would have to be involved.
Would it be a good idea for us to reach out to Commerce?
I think so. We've been waiting for this report to kind of start this discussion up again. You know, the idea was, once we get this, call a meeting of the Pathway Committee, have them review, and then, once we know internally what we want to do, then approach the other jurisdictions to see what they might be interested in doing.
Well, the other thing, especially since it's, Commerce is looking at putting that pathway east, right from Glengarry too.
And I know a lot of people, may be critical of, hey, they just repaved the road, why didn't you do this at the time? But this is really complicated. It involves 4 different government agencies, and there's just not much room for pathways in certain spots. And so they're going to help us, I think, restart the conversation with their report, and hopefully can be used as something that we can take to the other jurisdictions and see what's possible.
Yeah, I think by the time that preservation cap over what we know to be the crumbling roadway of South Commerce is ready for additional work, we're going to be well underway here. I mean, this really, to do a full pathway there, you really have to relay the roadbed in places or do, I'm telling everybody here, you've all been through it. But I do expect that this report is going to make a really good starting point for going out, working with our additional communities, also working with, because it's an Oakland County Road Commission road, also working with our state representatives who've expressed interest in trying to help move us forward in this over time. We'll have a different set of them in November, but I think they'll also be interested. It's a complicated issue. It's going to take funding. It's going to take time. But I think this gives us a really good starting point towards saying, hey, one of the goals of transportation in the state of Michigan is pedestrian safety, and it's not being addressed in this roadway. Having said all that, we have a motion on the floor to just renew the contract. Any further discussion? Roll call vote?
Yes.
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 Thank you, council. Second call to the public, an opportunity for citizens to address the council regarding any and all village business.
Can I make a second call?
Sure.
Thomas Chiravelli, 1845 Ladd Road. So if you could write that down, 1845 Ladd Road. The reason why I'm saying that is you are welcome to come over to our house and check out this fence that was put between our property lines. If you lived there, you wouldn't want this fence on your property, I'm telling you. So, I mean, we got
nearby, so I promise
a
I will come
beautiful
look at that.
community, and there's just no place for it. So, and it's not personal, it's just, doesn't work out.
Actually, if that fence is on your property, you should be able to take that fence down yourself.
You know, I'm not gonna get involved with.
No, I
that.
understand. I'm just saying, if it's
Right.
truly on your property, there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to take it down.
Yeah.
Not a granted easement.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do that.
I think
Yeah, I've got-
you're doing it the right way.
I'm
Chuck.
very professional, and I'm not
Told you to do
gonna cause
it.
any issues.
Let's work through the
Remember
process.
the
Yeah.
name, remember the name.
Right, yeah.
Remember the name?
Mr. Chiavelli,
Nedrow.
That's the guy.
would you mind writing down your contact information? I think we have it in the office, but I just want to be sure, so that we can get back in touch with you.
Fence ordinance, for God's sake.
About a year or two back, too, hasn't
What, 10?
it? 10 years, yeah.
10, 15
And
years
I'm
ago?
happy to give you guys some email responding lessons as well.
And I will take a look back at that.
Yeah,
Having
oh, yeah,
having discussed
yeah, I saw it.
the issue, I now recall the email, and I thought it had come in with a packet of other emails that had been forwarded to us, not specifically sent to us. So
See, I thought.
that's my bad.
I
That's my
thought
bad
on the email, I
misreading it.
seen an address of 17 something.
I was trying to
No,
find
so
out.
it's just my bad. I'm misreading that, because usually I do respond to those emails that come into
There
council.
were some
Fence is
issues,
made up
I actually went over there.
Petition made out of shrubs.
And there's an issue in terms
Bushes and
of
stuff.
where it actually falls within our
Is-
ordinance.
do we have an ordinance that
There's
will be in touch this way?
whether or not
Main Street.
it's kind of one of those things.
Yeah, there was a lot around that issue, and I was calling other issues of it.
How you spell it?
I couldn't find it.
Yeah, she lives right down the street.
All right, good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Anybody else second call to the public? Seeing none, I will close the second call. We'll move on to recommendations from the police department. Now representing.
Council, the police department would like to purchase 2 signs from Evolus Radar Speed Sign. They're permanently mounted, they're solar powered, they give off data. We would mount one on Benstein Road near the park and the other one on Glengarry Road. That would free up the one that we use on Glengarry to be mobile and portable to put in the subdivision. And there is no cost to them like we have right now. It's a $1,500 a year cost for the current one. That would go away.
Yep. So, and I talked about this a little bit with the administrator in terms of that ongoing software cost. So we pay a software cost right now for the automatic instant upload of that data. It goes through some networkings. We would stop doing that. We would still use the mobile one that we have as a mobile sign in additional places, but we would just occasionally upload the information. We can do that via chip without having to pay the $1,500. So that's where we avoid that annual subscription fee for that information. I would also say that I think that first sign that we got, even with the $1,500 a month, has been, or $1,500 a year, sorry, not a month, has been really good bang for the buck. It's been really good in speed enforcement, in traffic enforcement. We've seen it in the data that it presents. And I think 2 additional signs just displaying, you all know as you drive, when you see those signs, you pay attention, is going to be good.
I would make a motion that we purchase the 2 Evola's radar speed signs at a cost of $5,819.
Second. So motion Sienkiewicz, second, did I hear from Dumont? Yep. And let me add a friendly and also make a budget amendment for them, because this is currently unbudgeted. We weren't planning to make this expenditure.
Oh, I thought, okay,
But-
I thought we had it in there, but okay.
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
No,
If-
no.
If you want to do a friendly, you're more than welcome to.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out to council, this is a really good deal. We had kind of wanted to get more signs, but we didn't budget for it because we didn't know that this kind of pricing would be available, and so this is a very nice deal for us, and that's why the chief wanted to go ahead and move forward with the budget amendment.
Now, I'm sure there's some type of warranty with these, but these are all solar powered?
Yep.
Good, good. Sounds like a good idea.
Further discussion on the motion?
Mr. Condit, we have money somewhere that you can,
Well, no, it would be a budget amendment. We would simply make a dent in fund balance.
Okay.
There's no
What's the
offset.
next
all
one?
right, so it's not going to break us.
I think we can afford it.
Okay, thank you.
The only thing we had, by the way, the only thing we had budgeted for, as far as police equipment this year, was that watch guard system.
Right.
That may ring a bell. We had 10,000 in the budget. It was specifically dedicated for that.
Thank you.
Further discussion? Roll call vote?
Pedro.
Yes.
Sienkiewicz?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
Dumont?
Yes.
Duff?
Yes.
Bell?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Brings us to item 2, request to send Sergeant Morosco to Police Staff and Command Leadership Program.
Thank you. Requesting to send myself to Staff and Command School. This is a really good program to help develop executive leadership skills. There's some networking involved in it where you, in the class, it runs from February through October. It's 1 week a month at Eastern Michigan University. It's nationally recognized and accredited. It's a really good program. The chief and deputy chief have both been through similar programs in the past. I've talked with other sergeants, chiefs, and of higher rank that have gone through it. It's a next progression in career development for your command officers.
I'd like to make a motion that we send Sergeant Morosco to the Police Staff and Command Leadership Program for a cost not to exceed $32.50.
Second.
Motion Duff, second Malik. Further discussion? I will just say, I recall Chief Ellsworth talking about this as being really instrumental in helping him with his career. It's really highly regarded training, and I think it's an excellent program and a good idea. Further discussion?
Yeah, Sergeant Morosco, do you have a wall where you put all these certificates?
Binder, not allowed that much for wall space.
Congratulations for stepping up and wanting to improve. Thank you.
All right. Hearing no further discussion, let me get a roll call vote.
Sinkwitz.
Yes.
McGee.
Yes.
Dumont.
Yes.
Duff.
Yes.
Malik.
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
Nedrow.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Go forth and learn. Bring us to item J, employee life insurance agreement with United of Omaha Life Insurance Company. The treasurer to introduce this one.
You know, Mr. President, you can be dealing with a company for years and everything seems benign and everything runs smoothly and invoices are paid and all is right with the world. And then you get that email where the chairman of the board of a new company that takes over this company tells you all of that's going to continue. Well, sometimes they're wrong. And in this particular case, I have had a very, very difficult time with this, the back office of this company. It was an outfit called Assurant. They provided both the short-term disability, the life insurance component, and a long-term disability component of a plan. We unfortunately are having billing problems. All of the communications about, hey, call me if there's issues or trouble or something like that fall on deaf ears. I have a champion at the moment who I haven't heard from now in a week, who thought was going to carry the water for me, but isn't. In short, billing issues, double invoices, just their back office has gone right down the tubes. It's a shame, really. But luckily, someone can ride to the rescue, a more reputable name, I think, or so, I should say, a name that most of us have heard of, Mutual of Omaha, going back to the 1950s when they sponsored a Animal Kingdom show. Anyway, I really want to get started with them. They have a local office. They have a local representative. Sun Life is based in Canada. I can't talk to anybody here. No one's going to come and see us. This bodes well for the future, I think, both in terms of the cost. We're paying the same thing for much more product, and also the idea that I think if there's trouble, it sounds very much like they'd come and run it. And I don't anticipate trouble, but we have to make that move, and the sooner the better.
So to sum up, pay the same, get more, and avoid a dozen headaches for our treasurer.
I'd like to make a motion that we switch our short and long-term disability.
And also life insurance.
And also life, to the Mutual Omaha from Sun Life.
Second.
So I hear a motion to move those insurance policies as presented from Duff, second from Malik. Any further discussion?
Michael, has anyone else reviewed this with you, or whether?
Well, I did enlist the services of our consultant, Herman Klingelhofer, who does most of our benefits stuff. Nathan's, been briefed on it.
Right.
Front to back, and so when you say reviewed by someone else,
Well, in other words, anyone else review it that agrees with your feeling?
I think that's the general sense, yeah.
Okay, good. Well, again, I just didn't want it to.
No, that's an excellent, good question.
Yep, no, I think it came from a recommendation from our benefits consultant, and our administrator has reviewed and concurred.
I've overheard Mike's conversation with our current company, and this will be a very popular move. It's been a headache, so this is a good move.
All right, any further discussion? Roll call vote.
McGee.
Yes.
Dumont.
Yes.
Duff.
Yes.
Malik.
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
Nedrow.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, council. We have a request for referral of a couple items to the administrative committee, seawall maintenance agreement, and a review of the village committee list. Do I hear a motion to refer those to admin?
So moved.
Second.
Motion Duff, second Dumont. Further discussion?
I'd like to add one other thing if possible. Just a quick review of the status of the RFP on the aeration equipment, just a quick discussion, which is something that the water board promoted at the last council.
So are we good with a friendly amendment to
Yeah.
also add RFP for
We have
aeration equipment to
information.
that?
We have information on that?
Well, I really think we need to update ourselves on it, yeah.
We can discuss it Friday
We can
morning,
discuss it.
see where we are with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Set topics for the August 22nd work session. At the moment, I don't believe we have any
Make
topics.
a motion that we cancel that.
Second.
Motion Malik, second Sinkowitz. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. If I could get every motion that fast, we'd be done with our meeting in 12 minutes. Okay, brings us to our additional ones. Item M, Veterans Memorial Committee update. So as your new liaison, I've got some updates for you. We still are planning to have and establish the regular meeting on the third Wednesday of the month, so that'll come up on the 15th. But there were a couple of items that the committee wanted to be able to address before our council meeting, including some information on Project SNAP, which is a art mosaic project that has some contractual things around it. They want it to be part of the memorial. That I think needs a little bit more work before it's ready to come to council. We had a real good meeting, I thought, in terms of getting the committee back on the basis of moving this project forward, getting the ideas together, being able to put together for council in the longer run, sort of a coherent plan, coherent finances, coherent funding, really things that I think the council is going to be able to support, building better consensus within it. So I think it was a really good meeting overall. Out of that meeting, we came back with a couple of recommendations to council for the village that I think are going to help move the committee that way. So I'll read them down here and then I'll talk a little bit about them. One is the village commit to purchasing bricks through Bricks R Us as part of the fundraising plan. 2, the village have the administrator and the treasurer work with the committee to create a construction plan and a finance and fundraising plan. And 3, the village confirm October 6th at 1 p.m. after the packing party for a flag raising event to kick off construction of the memorial. So let me talk about them in a little bit of detail. Bricks R Us is a company that does custom bricks. It's a popular fundraising for a lot of things. I think you guys have seen it in other places where you go in, you sign up for a brick, you pay $100 or $200, you get the printing of, your family name, your loved one who was a veteran, if you're a company, maybe your company logo, whatever it may be. They're pretty widely used. They generally have the best prices available. They are generally a pay-as-you-go organization, company, so you sign up, people sign up for bricks, they sign up for a brick, you get sent the brick. There are, I believe, some programs through them where we may be able to, set aside, purchase in advance a bunch of bricks, or take a bunch of orders and bring them all in at once. I think this needs a little bit more investigation before we sign a formal contract with them. But I think as a motion from the village, if we're ready to go with them, we could make a motion to commit to purchasing bricks through Bricks R Us as part of the fundraising plan, subject to the administrator's approval. So make sure we work with Nathan. I've got a little bit of information. We'll find out a little bit more information about them. Make sure that we're happy with them as the vendor for this. But that will let the committee start to promote the Buy a Brick program, to start to put it on their website, to start to hand out some flyers that have that program. And it'll really help to start the fundraising for this. So, you want to take these one at a time as motions and work through?
Sure. The only thought I have is if we're getting into a contract with buying bricks, and we haven't even picked what our memorial's gonna look like, and we haven't started yet, and we don't have all the funds to do it. I think it's a good idea to do it, but I don't know if this is something we want to get involved with now.
So I think through this company, we can get bricks in different shapes, different colors, whatever we need. What I would expect we would do is, in the beginning phases, we would collect up brick orders. I don't think people are expecting to have a brick delivered to, buy a brick, deliver a brick the next week. But we'll start collecting up brick orders in anticipation of, as we get a little further through the planning, we know what color bricks we want, we know where they're gonna go, and then we can put in that first order and just get those bricks all at once.
And then we'll get them and store them here?
Yeah.
Until we're ready to use them?
Either get them and store them here, or collect more and I believe there's a discount for buying more bricks at once, so get more of a discount. But this moves us forward in being able to say, hey, we've got a vendor, this is what it looks like. Bricks R Us also has, through their website, ways, you can go directly to their website, order up the brick, put in your typing for the brick, get exactly what you want. It gives us some certainty around, hey, this is what we're gonna do with this piece of the fundraiser.
Isn't it dovetailed to item number 2 in a sense where you're going to do the construction plan, the finance and fundraising plan? I mean, this is really getting out in front of that, but we're not going to have 1,500 bricks laying here.
No.
I mean, we're sort of inventorying the possibility of fundraising in a sense, correct? I mean, if you order a brick, they're going to do the brick, or if you order the brick, they're willing to put in that stanchia, at least put it there and say, when you come and know what kind of bricks you want, we're ready to do them.
So to be specific, this is exactly why I said this motion should include, subject to the administrator's approval.
I heard that.
My basic understanding, and I haven't had a lot of time to research between last night's meeting and tonight, is that they will be able to gather up the orders, deliver at once. We're not gonna suddenly have bricks
That's what I'm
being
saying.
delivered
I mean,
across the
it's-
village, yeah.
This gets a committee off the ground to go out and do what they want to do, is what
Yeah.
you're saying. Good.
Yep.
Do you need a motion, or do you just want to go down the list?
Why don't, I can go down the motion, we can do them as one motion, or we can just do them one motion at a time.
Do them all at once.
Do them all.
Okay.
Has this brick company, I mean, you allowed so many letters in a certain size brick? What-
Yeah, there are specifications around it. One of the things I would expect we would do, and the committee's already worked a little bit with the front office with Paige, make sure that we have a brick ordering form available for people.
Standardization, really.
Yeah.
If it's by the letter, mine will be more than yours.
Well, yeah, but not if I use my wife's maiden name.
I believe the committee will be happy to let you buy as many letters and as many bricks as you care for.
There you go.
And they do have in, there's a brick order already. Or at least the form for one.
I just, the storing, that was brought up. I just don't care for that idea at all, you know.
I don't think that's gonna happen.
No, okay,
Let's
that's
confirm,
just-
let's confirm through the
Yeah.
administrator that we're not gonna end up with
Right.
with a pallet of bricks sitting down here in the basement waiting for us.
You know, we're out in the garage and, you know, they hit it with the backhoe or.
But I think we'll be fine.
Okay.
So the second item is have the administrator and treasurer work with the committee to create a construction plan and a finance and fundraising plan. So one of the things this committee has had is a lot of ideas. They've got sort of a concept proposal. Here's what we'd like it to look like. But as I think everybody knows, there's a big jump between, hey, here's kind of what we think we'd like it to look like, and actually having some specifications, some measurements, the details of that, and then going back through as a committee and saying, okay, we thought we wanted this here and this here. Now that we look at it on the map, what do we look like? We may recall ourselves having gone through that with a PERC process where we thought we would like what it looked like when we got the map, and that did not go well. So, you know, the committee itself, I don't think can quite put together full construction plan, full construction plans. They're trying to work with a few professionals to see if they can get some of those services donated. But in the meantime, I'd like to have them work with the administrator on putting together that plan, and also with the treasurer on putting together a more organized finance and fundraising plan, where we can say, okay, here are the features that this memorial is going to have, here are the expected costs for this, here's this funding source, here's that funding source. Some of it's going to be through Build a Brick. The Project SNAP concept, which is the large art mosaic, comes with some fundraising expertise and some fundraising experience where they are willing to help you and work with you to get corporate donations and other things in. There's an aspect of that. There's an aspect of discussions they've had with our current state rep around potentially getting some state grant money for this. As we all know, there's a large gap between potentially getting some state grant money and actually, as a community, having a check in hand. So there are complications in there. What I think we'd like to see out of all of this is really get this committee's plan and vision, sort of pull it down out of the air, get it on paper, make it concrete, and make this something that we can achieve and we can have a plan to do. So that's,
And then that, essentially, that would then come back in front of council for some type of finalization?
yeah, I would expect that to come back to council probably iteratively. So you come up with a preliminary plan. Here's here's the estimate. Here's, we've seen the initial, sort of drawing of what we think it would look like. Here's a more concrete plan. Here's really what it would look like. Here are where these pieces would be. Here are the things that we think we can have. Council looks at it and says, yeah, that's good, or council looks at it and says, hey, whoa, this wasn't what we were expecting. But then we can have a discussion about something concrete instead of, well, it could be this or it could be that. And then the third one is something that we've talked about already in terms of a flagpole, and it's just putting up a flagpole in the park in that area. I think the expectation is that it would be along the pathway on the way to the exercise equipment, which is the ultimate destination as currently planned. But just have a flagpole, get the flagpole there, have a flagpole raising ceremony. It would likely have to be a temporary installation for a couple years or a year until such time as it gets its permanent location. But to have that ceremony, to do it after the packing party, which I think is a good time, it's a good fit. A lot of people will be interested. They'll finish off the packing, grab a little lunch, come on over, but, kind of commit to doing that and putting our flag in the ground, as it were. So those are the motions from the committee. My feeling is that set of motions starts this committee towards moving in a positive direction and moving towards something that council's going to be able to look at and say, hey, okay, now I can see what the vision is. I can see how we're going to get there from where we are now. Do I hear a motion to implement the recommendations from the Veterans Memorial Committee?
So moved.
Second.
Motion Scott, second Sequence. Further discussion?
For minutes clarification, there are no village funds being allocated here anyways, right? The flagpole isn't that being donated, I understand?
So, my understanding of flagpole was the village was planning to buy that.
Oh, we are gonna buy it, okay.
Yeah, we had that discussion. We do not currently have a price for it, so I think that's gonna have to come back
Maybe
to council
that's
with
what I
a price.
remember then. Okay.
I have a series of quotes that range from $2,000 to $5,000.
Yeah.
There's
Okay.
a lot of them. We can try to define those a little bit better. I'm a little leery about waiting real long, though, to approve that, because some of these were out of state, and they're going to be shipping them to us, and I just don't know the timeline, if we're talking about October 6th.
Plus it has to be installed.
Plus
Yep,
it has to
I was
be
gonna say,
installed, and
put
so
concrete in the ground
if
first.
there was a dollar amount the council wanted not to exceed, it might be worth at least having that discussion. Again, the quotes I've seen range from 2 to 5, depending on the type. They're all 25 or 30 feet, but
The person that lives in the village that does it, did you get anything from?
yeah, I have a quote from him, yeah,
That was
on the higher
higher
end,
end.
yeah, quite a bit on the higher end, but probably the best product, too. And so if we're going to wait until the September meeting, I'm worried if we end up ordering having it shipped here from out of state, that we might not have enough time to get it and get it
What was the
installed.
price range in terms of?
He said 2,000 to 5,000. Can we just do a not to exceed 5,000, subject to the administrator's discretion?
Yeah.
I think
I'll
you
make
want
that
to
motion.
have a sleeve put in the ground too,
Yeah,
Nathan, make
yeah,
sure,
because we're gonna
because if we're going to have to move it.
Yeah. And also, just to be clear, number one, as, it's written there, but also includes subject to the administrator's approval in terms of bricks rust and going forward. There's a little more investigation
Sure.
we have to do, but we want to make sure we get that done. I think that's a good idea on the timing.
So then we need a motion for the allocation, right?
So we have a motion, we've added as a friendly, not to exceed $5,000 for a flagpole, subject to the administrator's discretion. So he can look through his quotes, see what's the best product and price he can get.
I think we're still looking into pricing. I don't think we approved it. It's approved now.
Well, it's as part of that, but we don't have the exact one yet.
And I'll be in communication with the committee if there's a certain
Yeah.
quote they like, we'll talk about them as a group and be sure not to.
There's
exceed
other
that amount.
considerations, if it is a light can be mounted on it, or would the light be in the ground, and also however it goes up manually or electrically, it's got to be able to be childproof.
Yeah, and self-storing too, don't some of those poles store the flag, so,
I don't know about that.
yeah, I think.
Well, there's an
They have an
internal
mechanism
internal
so that
mechanism.
nobody can
Yeah,
just
the
walk
internal
over.
mechanism is so,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Somebody
yeah, I
doesn't
think this
hang
is a case where
themselves.
the
Take it
lowest
down.
cost pole may not be the thing that we want.
Yeah, that's what
Well,
we're getting to.
the other thing is, if it is going in a sleep temporarily, some of those cheaper poles might not be able to be
Right.
done like that.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's
Structurally,
true.
I mean.
Yeah. We will be sure to get a product that will be permanent but can be moved, and I think with that dollar amount, we'll be okay.
All right, further discussion on the motion? Roll call vote?
Clement?
Yes.
Duff?
Yes.
Malik?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Medro?
Yes.
Sinkowitz?
Yes.
McKee?
Yes. Thank you, council. We will be meeting again next Wednesday, and
Now, also, this does mean you're gonna stay on that committee after November, right?
Freestanding and
communication.
Oh, yeah.
I
freestanding.
mean, you seem to represent well for the people that are involved, and
Between 20 and
I am council liaison to that committee. My council time runs out
I
in
know,
November.
but the committee
Because
will
the last thing
deserve
that
some
interview is
personality
this,
like
and
yours.
here's-
We'll discuss where we
They're going
are
with
in
this,
November.
they keep this-
But yeah, I think this was, it was a good meeting last night. I think it's a good step towards making this, and certainly I think we're started to head in a good direction. One last thing to mention from that committee, we are still planning to go forward with a large presence at the corn roast. There's gonna be a tent there, there're gonna be a couple other things. The artwork project mentioned before would have been part of Project Snap, but there were contractual involvements in there. But I think we're gonna see if we can get somebody from Project Snap down to represent, or maybe do a little preliminary artwork, or some of those things. So, lot for us to discuss in our next meeting to make that happen by the corn roast. All right, brings us to item N, DPW purchases. Number one, fence, Mr. Berg.
Thank you for adding this tonight. Andy has been working hard to get this information to present to you. If we're starting with the fence, I passed out a packet of information. This is a budgeted item. If you take a look at the fence we have outside, it is in very bad shape. It's broken in several pieces. It's 29 years old, which means it's been here longer than Andy, which is hard to believe. And, you know, with the parking lot being done and the building being restored, it's kind of the last piece to getting the exterior of our property where it should be. And so you see the bids that Andy collected. He's recommending Novi fence at a price not to exceed $16,000. This is a PVC fence. If you turn to this page, I actually circled the wrong one, but it's that same style, but instead of beige, we want to go with a light gray. So it's not just a solid white wall, it'll be white with gray, which we think will match the building pretty well.
How far will this go down the parking?
It'll be the exact length that the fence is now, exact same location, same length.
Wait a second, so which one is
It's
this?
this fence, but it should be the gray, not the beige.
Oh, okay.
So it's just, and you really can't tell the color difference on this copy, but it'll be a lightish
That
gray.
goes past the DPW.
So I gotta go right down to the DNR launch?
DNR
It's,
launch, right?
the intent is to go the whole length that we have the current fence.
Well, don't say,
To, on our property,
our property ends at the DPW,
Right.
or DNR.
Yeah, the length of our property. We're not
DNR
gonna,
fence.
we're not
Yeah, because
gonna
it-
replace anything that's not our
Because all the
property.
wooden fences.
Yeah, I was referring to fence in our property.
You said this is budgeted already?
Yep, this was planned. We've been wanting to do this for a while.
Mr. President, I make a motion that we approve out of budgetary
Yeah.
funds to do the Novi fence is the best price, and a price not to exceed 16 was what he asked for.
Mhm.
There you go.
Second.
So motion Duff, second Dumont, to approve the purchase of the fence by Novi Fence, or installed by Novi Fence as presented, cost not to exceed 16,000. Any further discussion? Roll call vote?
Duff?
Yes.
Malik?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Medro?
Yes.
Sinkowitz?
Yes.
McKee?
Yes.
Clement?
Yes.
Motion carries.
So when's this gonna be done?
We don't know yet. We don't have a date in mind, but we'll be contacting them tomorrow. The idea is to get it done this fall, though.
Mm-hmm, good.
We didn't have a motion on the riding lawnmower yet, have we?
No, that's coming up next.
They were in the memo in reverse order. I probably should have
Okay.
added them in the other order, but.
This is also a budgeted item. It's something that we planned for when we were putting the budget together. It's a John Deere riding mower. The price is $11,133.47. This mower has been bid through the state purchasing My Deal program, which is a good thing for us to take advantage of. The mower we want to replace is 10 years old. It's got over 1,600 hours on it. We think we can still get some good money for it if council authorizes me to go ahead and sell that mower in addition to purchasing the new one. But again, a budgeted item. We're not asking for an amendment. This is something that we've been planning in our
President,
forecasting.
I'd like to make a motion that we purchase the John Deere
Well, he's
Z-Track
busy over there tonight.
commercial. They're good mowers. I actually have a Z-Track myself, not obviously a commercial one, but one of the Z-Tracks, and they are pretty decent mowers.
If you want to get a commercial one, I think one's going to be up for sale on Craigslist pretty
It's
soon.
all right. My wife would not be happy with that.
So I hear motion.
Your wife approves?
Motion Duff, second Sinkowitz to purchase the riding mower as
Can
presented.
we attach to that, also that it would be under the discretion of the administrator to sell the old?
Yeah, our code actually requires that you give me permission to sell an item, so I'm asking for that as well.
And we're doing that not in closed bid, but on, it says here Craigslist.
Yeah, we've had a lot of good luck with Craigslist, and so we'll probably go that route. We get a lot of feedback every time we use it.
Are we going to put a minimum we're looking for on that?
I'll talk to Andy about that, we may. We typically will advertise it on Craigslist, and people can submit bids, so it's a different way to advertise the
Yeah.
bid system, but
You don't
Andy,
have enough lawn.
Andy and I will work out the
I
best
don't want
way,
it,
and
but I
there
just
should be.
want to get the max for it.
He thinks we can get around $3,000 for it, which would be really nice. So we'll talk about a minimum bid.
So the motion, as I hear it, is to purchase the riding mower as presented and to authorize the administrator to sell the current mower.
Yep.
And that's motion Duff, second Sinkowitz. Further discussion? Roll call vote.
Alex?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Pedro?
Yes.
Sinkowitz?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
Lamont?
Yes.
Duff?
Yes.
All right, thank you, council. Brings us to pending business. We have none tonight. Update from the deputy chief. Deputy Chief Wojciechowicz.
First, I'd like to say whoever designed the village sign and the font and the color, that is beautiful. It's an easy sign to read, and the timing of it. You know, you see some other signs in different areas, and it's like, that's saying, that is just a gorgeous sign. The font's perfect. I just want to give my opinion.
You can do that. It's your report.
Thank you. Our Marine Patrol's doing an excellent job out there, as some of you may have witnessed. Our new hires have come along very well. It's actually been a very great summer. President McGee, I got a quick question for you.
Sure.
Are you going to be writing one more newsletter?
Yeah, I am. I'll write one for the fall or winter.
Okay, could you mention our internet trading area that we created in the parking lot?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Sure.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
Either I'll put it in my letter, or maybe we'll just give it a featured spot of its own in the newsletter, which might give it a little more prominence.
I appreciate it, thank you much. That's all I got.
How many people actually read what I write? 2, 3,
I do.
maybe 4? My wife, my in-laws.
There's a special room for that letter.
I'm honored. All right, update from the treasurer. All good here.
That's what I do my taxes.
Update from the administrator.
I just want to thank Commerce Township's clerk's office. We had an primary election here yesterday. We're a polling location, and they're always very good at communicating with us on getting their equipment set up and getting it out of the way before tonight's meeting and getting everything cleaned up. And so it's always nice to work with them, and look forward to another election in November. Also, we heard a really good report on the garage sale that starts tomorrow, but there are some hard copies of the map back there if anybody wants to grab one on the way out that highlights each property that we've been notified about that's participating. So that's all I have tonight.
And it's good that they didn't run out of ballots.
It's good. I wouldn't want to be dealing with those calls.
Oh, that is shameful.
I did look at the numbers today, and just in our state rep district, there were about twice as many votes as were cast 2 years ago, which usually presidential primaries draw more than the off-year primaries. So there's a lot of voter interest this year.
And short a few ballots, too, in Oakland County, I understand.
Oh, yeah, that was not good. I'm not saying that was good. Council comments. Let's start down here this month. Mr. Scott.
I'll let the gentleman next to me pick up comments. Everything was good, and look forward to having a good week on the lake, actually.
Mr. Nedrow.
No comment to me.
Sinkowitz.
Yeah, I want to reiterate what was said earlier about the Marine Patrol. I've had a chance to watch him because I can look right out and see the deep hole and all that stuff, and I had a chance to talk to him, and it's amazing that he stops 9 and 10-year-olds on jet skis going by themselves with no mom or dad, and he's writing tickets, and I think he's doing a fantastic job, and he's really dedicated. The other thing is, we had talked about this briefly, and I know Nathan and I, but now that the sign's up there in that part of the South Commerce, Glengarry, the south side, looks like a village and the sign belongs there. I've talked about a couple times about the north end. All it is Phragmites, and there's bushes behind it. And Mr. Duff and his wife and I attended a seminar up in northern Michigan, and they were saying that one of the ways they were able to control that is before the seeds form, which is like now, is whack it down with a chainsaw or whatever, and then just keep cutting it so it doesn't grow. And we'll have some other foliage, because everybody knows that that Phragmite weed is an invasive species, and we're introducing it. When you come into our village, look at our beautiful Phragmite. And it's right there on the corner. And I think it would be, that's my feeling, that we make an effort to cut it down and get rid of it, and maybe make that side where the walk is and the bridge a little bit more, not such an eyesore.
Pat Nagy did that, what,
Yeah, I think the
4 years ago.
Yeah, the water board
That
had
was
some
on South
success
Commerce.
down on South Commerce.
But by the apartments.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
we were doing it.
And it had some success, but these guys, correct? Yeah, that's what they were saying,
They
just.
were actually saying also, the first year they did it on the ice.
Mhm.
And then the second year, that's when they did it this time of year to control the seeds.
Yeah.
But they were using like a weed whacker with a saw blade on
Oh,
it.
saw blade,
Yeah.
yeah.
But you could, once,
Oh, yeah.
once you got that down to, within a couple, 4 inches off the ground, our tractor-driven weed machine, what do you call it?
Brush hog.
Yeah, brush hog could take care of that, and then,
I would entertain a motion to send the issue of the Phragmites to the admin committee, and then we can talk about what
make
some
the
options
motion.
might be.
Yeah.
Motion Duff, second.
I'll second it.
Second Dumont. Further discussion. I know everybody laughs when I say this, but there are communities that use goats to control them, and in some areas.
well, we could stake a couple goats out there.
It might.
I'll make that motion.
It might not be a bad idea. I'm just saying, I think there are a lot of ways. I know we had some
We'll
success.
put some horns on the goat,
But,
come November.
let's take a look at a few options, but I agree that whatever we can do to get the Phragmites out.
Yeah. I mean,
better.
especially there, as soon as you pull you go into the village and you just see a 14, 20-foot wall of Phragmites, 8 feet high.
And at risk of digressing during your council comments, I've seen a lot of purple loosestrife on the other side of the road
Yeah.
down here by the
It's really
dam.
coming
Yeah.
back.
And I wonder if it might be worth looking at either introducing some beetles or getting some more loosestrife beetles over there. I don't know that they were ever formally introduced there to begin with, but they were really effective in helping to control them down by where the boardwalk is, and it might not be a bad idea to look into that.
Along the canal, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to get back in touch with
Walled Lake,
Walled
Walled Lake
School.
Central, yeah.
Central, they had a real
Well, I
problem
amend
with
the motion to
liabilities,
look
but.
at invasive plant species.
Yeah.
Did we vote on the motion yet? We might not have, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
I don't think we
No,
did,
no.
so we still have motion on the floor, friendly amendment to have the admin committee look at invasive plant species.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Commerce has a pretty successful program that we missed last year. I guess they still would like to join in with us in their Park and Recs group, so.
With what,
Berlin.
Phragmite or the?
Phragmites. Yeah. They've got 4 parks under the watch of one company. Did a good job.
Okay, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Well, look at this, we're getting quite an agenda for Friday morning.
There we go.
Who's that?
All right, Ed, anything else?
No.
All right.
Thank you.
I contacted Mr. Byrd roughly 2 weeks ago about talking weeds to growth along Benstein, and he related to Andy, and supposedly
Andy has contacted the Oakland County Road Commission, and they said they would get to it, but you know how they work. But just to update, because you're talking weeds, you know, the Great Wall of Wolverine can't be seen because of the overgrowth. So hopefully, the Oakland County will
Come through with a mower.
do something.
We've been asking residents who call us about that to call the county, just so they know it's not just us asking. We've had a handful this week. And it's usually this time of year that they'll go at it, but it looks especially jungle-like this year.
Well,
so-
the reason I bring it up is because I contacted you, and you had gotten back to me that Andy contacted them, so, you know, it's being worked on, and hopefully it'll be finished. That's it.
South Commerce is nice. I like driving on that compared to some of the other roads.
Yeah.
That's it.
August 20th, Park and Rec meeting, right here, 7 o'clock. We're going to show off our new board member, Mark. Thanks again, Mark.
Yeah, really.
And to me, it's been a lovely summer, and I'm hoping to continue, so, nothing
Motion
more.
to adjourn.
Support. Motion Sikowitz, second Nedrow. Further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
John.